Greetings, beautiful ones. Welcome to the Snails with No Shells podcast. I am Ms. BJ Martin. It is so nice to meet you. In this community, we are all snails with no shells. This is a safe space for one to bear all and feel free. We will talk about any and everything. There is no judgment on this podcast. Individuals and aliens from all walks of life and planets, please join us. See you soon. Greetings. All right, greetings, beautiful ones. This is Ms. BJ Martin. Thank you for tuning in. And without further ado, I would like to introduce my special guest for the evening, the beautiful, amazing conqueror, Noor Jihan Al-Haq.
Hello.
Hey, welcome, and thank you for being on my podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. So the first question I've been asking everybody that's been on my show is, where are you from?
Originally, or where do I live right now?
We can do both, because I'm gonna ask.
Oh,
Where are you originally from?
I'm originally from Detroit, Michigan, but I live in Clarksville, Tennessee right now.
What up, though, Detroit?
Detroit. Okay.
And
Detroit,
now you're in Tennessee. Yes. I have good friends from the D.
From the D. Yes.
Okay, and so now you're in Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
So what is it? What's Detroit known for besides what's the Motown?
Motown, yeah, the Motor City. That's basically what they're known for, and the casinos, and it's cold. I know that much.
I know. I'm originally from Cincinnati, Ohio. I do not miss those winters.
Nah, they can have them.
Yes. So you grew up, born and raised in Detroit?
No, I wasn't born and raised there. I was born there.
Okay.
I'm a military brat, so I've really been all over the place. But yeah. When I go back home, usually in the summertime, I don't like to stay too long. I'll be wanting to come back here because I get homesick. But most of my family's there. I don't even really know the place that well either. I didn't even want to learn how to drive. It's just I'm not a city person. That's why I like Clarksville, because it's more, urban, and it's not. Rural. Urban is city. Yeah, it's more rural, right. And people are laid back, and they're nicer here too, down in the South.
Yes, I think it's
hospitality wise.
It's probably because that fresh air.
I don't know. It might be. I'm telling you, because when I do go back up north, and I may be trying to walk through a door to any kind of facility. Don't nobody open a door for me. They just let me try, and then here I have 2 or 3 people holding the door for me. It's just. It's so different. Yes.
Wow. It's like a whole different kind of energy. That's probably
it is. Yeah. People are so just, down to earth, down south.
Yes. So how did you end up in Tennessee?
Well, I ended up in Tennessee following my son's father. He was in the military, and he got stationed here at Fort Campbell. And so that's how I ended up in Clarksville.
Okay.
I was in another part of Tennessee before here, but this is where we end up staying. Back in '99 is when I came here.
Okay. 99. Okay. Well, you run ahead. You answered that question. So you do love Tennessee?
Yes, I do love it.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Okay. I just want to let the listeners know that today's show is geared towards domestic violence awareness. So we will be speaking on a few topics, a few things about that type of situation. Okay, so I want to make sure that that you are comfortable, and that you are ready. You want to be transparent, and if you feel uncomfortable in any kind of way, let me know. Okay. So go ahead and just tell me first a few things about yourself. I know you sent me something very interesting. I don't know if you wanted me to share that or if you wanted to expound on what you sent me.
Oh, you can. Yeah, that's fine. What did I send you?
Exactly. Okay. I am a mother of one son, a DV survivor of domestic violence of 24 years that's October the 19th, 2021. You have an anniversary coming up. Awesome.
Yep.
I am also an advocate and inspirational speaker, a co-author and a poet, and the founder of Kingdom Warriors Network, Inc. I am a kingdompreneur with multiple streams of income. I love it. I love it. Love it. That's what you said. That's beautiful. Is there anything you would like to add to that?
Child of God. No.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm a child of God.
Okay. All right. So, you want to go ahead and share some of your story with Snails with No Shells?
Yeah, hold on. This thing got caught in my. There we go. All right. Okay. So, where you want me to start? I mean, you want me to start with the situation of what actually happened, or where I grew up and how it led to it, or where do you want me?
How about that? Yep. Let's start there. Where you grew up and how it led to it, because it had to be something that happened before that situation.
Okay.
Yes, that'd be great.
Yeah. So basically, like I said, I grew up as a military brat. So my mom, she was married to our dad. He joined the military. So we've been all over the place. We started out Detroit, and then we moved to Georgia, Fort Stewart. Then we moved to Alabama. Then we moved to Germany.
Oh, wow. Germany.
So, yeah, we were in Germany in 1981 through 1984.
Oh, wow. Wait a minute. Okay, so how was that? How was that for you? How was that experience for you in Germany at that age? Well, in the 80s.
Yeah, because I was 8 years old actually, and because my brother, he was actually born in Germany.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it was interesting because it was a whole different country. It was nice though because they had these gummies next to this, next to where we live, and we used to always walk to that store. And those were the freshest gummies ever. If anything I can remember about Germany, it's those gummy bears. But they weren't just the gummy bears. I mean, they had the strawberry ones. They taste just like strawberry. They had the Coca-Cola. They taste just like Coca-Cola. They were so juicy. I mean, they were the best gummies ever. That's what I said. Anybody wants some from Germany, just bring me some gummy bears and I'll be happy.
Okay. Yeah. But that's a good memory. Okay.
Yeah.
The gummies. All right. Okay, go on.
Yep. So I'm trying to remember. We had a cat, and her name was Isha. And my sister, she didn't like cats. This is another memory. And one day she was, Isha was eating, and my sister didn't realize that when cats are eating, you're not supposed to mess with them. And so she went to pet her, and the cat scratched her, and she hated the fact that the cat scratched her. So she hated that cat ever since then. So one day Isha was minding her own business, just looking out the window. My sister pushed her out the window.
And I love cats. I'm a cat lover. Oh,
yeah,
no.
She pushed her out the window, so we didn't see Isha no more after that.
She said she was through. She left.
She was done. Yeah. Yeah. So then one day we saw another cat that looked just like Isha. I think I was at the park, and I brought that cat home. I thought it was our cat. Honey, that was not our cat. This cat knew how to open doors. I was in the bathroom. That cat opened the door on me. I was like, yeah, this ain't Isha.
Oh my gosh. You had a human. You had a.
It learned some stuff, and we said, "Nah, this ain't the right cat." It got on the counter and all kind of stuff. My mom had to try to shoo it off with a broom. It was crazy. So, but yeah, those are the fun times. Yeah, but then we moved back to the United States, and then in Alabama.
Okay.
And then we moved to Alaska. So it was, let's see, I was 12. Yeah. Okay. Then we moved to Alaska, and that was where I actually want to say that I actually grew up in Alaska. Okay. Yeah, that's when I, because I was 12, so I learned, I was a teenager, my teenage years in Alaska. It was Fairbanks, which was Fort Wainwright was the base. Mm-hmm. So, and I actually, my name is Nur Jihan Abdullah Al-Haq, which stands for Light of the World, Servant of the True Living God. It's Arabic. So I actually grew up as a Muslim.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, we were all Muslim growing up. And then I decided, when I turned 20, I changed my religion, so I'm a Christian now.
Okay.
But it's because of the meaning of my name. Jesus is the light of the world. So that's why I kept my name instead of just, most people, when they change their religion, they change their name too. I didn't, So, but yeah, those are my teenage years and everything. And so this is when I actually met my son's father. He was in the military here in Alaska.
Okay.
So I went to school there. We were in North Pole. When we first moved to Alaska, we lived in North Pole. Then we moved to Fairbanks. Okay. And so I was 17, 18. So basically what happened is my dad that I grew up with, he was not my biological father.
Okay.
And so I met my biological father when I was 12, and we got back, like I said, we were in Alabama, and he decided he finally wanted to meet me. So he came to pick me up one time in Alabama and took me to Florida. That's where I met my uncle. And my sisters and them like, who is that? Where are they taking my sister? They weren't too happy,
I know it.
My mom was like, oh, she's going with her dad. You're like, her dad? But daddy's right here, So you had to know I had a different dad, and stuff like that. But after we got, stationed in Alaska, my parents, they weren't together anymore. So my mom was single, and she was raising 5 kids. And so she ended up meeting our new stepdad that, their father, they were dating. And it's such a small world, because when I got out of school, after I graduated high school, I went to college right away, but I wasn't really focused on it. So I kind of didn't pay attention. Mm-hmm. But, and then I had got pregnant while I was in college. But when I met my son's father, he was in the Army, but he was also a soccer player, and he and my stepdad were on the same team.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah. They didn't even know that, that we knew each other, or that he was my stepdad. And because he was over one time, my son was there, and he asked who his father was, and I said his name. He said, "What? That's his dad? Oh, we're on the same soccer team." I said, "Wow." It was a shocker. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, but I'm trying to remember exactly how things started to where it was, the abuse, because it really wasn't that bad at first. Mm-hmm. And so we were the way I met him, my sister, she says she blames herself every time she sees me, because she hooked us up.
Okay.
Because, after I met my dad, my real dad, then I would start going every summer to Detroit. And so the first time I went, I think I was 15, and then I was going every summer after that. And so when I got back, like I said, I was graduating, because I actually did a lot of stuff wrong while I was in high school, and I didn't graduate on time. So when it was time for me to go there for the summer, I had to go to summer school while I was in Detroit. So I actually graduated in Detroit, but I got my diploma from Lathrop High School, where I actually went to school.
Okay.
But my sister had my picture. She had my graduation picture in her wallet, and she was talking to one of my son's father's friend, and he was like, "Oh my gosh, that's your sister? Hook me up." And so when I get back home, in the summertime, she told me, "Nora, somebody wants to meet you." I'm like, "What? Already?" I'm barely touching the ground on the plane, and she told me somebody want to meet me. So that's how we met and everything. And then he had my number, so we were talking on the phone and stuff. We connected, and then but he was saying some stuff like, he said, "When I look in the mirror, I don't really see anything that worth looking at." And I'm like, "I know my sister did not just hook me up with no ugly dude. I don't do that." You know what I mean?
Right.
She know what type of guys I like. Light skinned and tall. And so that's how we met. And we started talking and everything like that. And then I don't know how he knew my address, but one day I was just at home, and then my other sister was like, "Nora, somebody's in the driveway." I was like, "Huh? Somebody's in our driveway? Who?" And it was a Blazer. I was like, "I don't know. I ain't expecting nobody. Are you?" And she wasn't either. So I'm like, "Who is that? Who are you?" He's like, "Oh, you don't remember who you was talking to on the phone last night?" I was like, "Oh, okay." He just showed up. I mean, like what? Really? Who does that?
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, "Well, I ain't got no shoes on." He said, "Well, put some shoes on." So I went out there talking to him and everything like that. And he had another friend with him. He was also a GI. And one of my friends from high school, she was talking to him. So like I said, this is a small world. Alaska it's big, but it's small, as far as what everybody knows everybody.
Right.
And I don't know if people say if you want to go to Alaska to find the men, that's where you go. Because that's where the men at.
In Alaska.
Yeah, in Alaska. Yeah.
Wow.
Interesting,
all right, ladies,
right?
y'all hear that? She said the men
that's
are
where the men are.
Alaska.
Yeah, they're in Alaska. Yeah, the women were scarce, but the men are there. So, but anyway, I'm trying to make it a quicker story. So that's how we met and everything like that. We hooked up, like I said, then I got pregnant, but he was also manipulative, and the abuse really, it was more verbal abuse that he would actually, when we would talk, he would call me stupid, or, and he knew I was very intelligent, and he would treat me differently behind closed doors, than he did in public. Mm-hmm. And there was times where we would just argue, and, I know there was a couple of times he tried to kill me. I didn't know if he was really trying to kill me, but he tried to smother me with a pillow one time. Another time we was arguing, he pulled a gun on me.
Wow.
Yeah, but he never pulled the trigger, and so it's like, okay, so I don't really know, is he serious or not? If one of these days he might really pull the trigger, so once a person does that, you kind of feel like, you just do whatever it is they say you got to do, so, but I think the main thing is because he was a player too. But when he told, when his friends told him, there ain't a lot of women here, so try to get as many as you can. So he was doing his dirt, I was doing mine. I was 18 years old, and I already told him, I said, I'm not really looking for no serious relationship or anything like that. And so, he cheated on me, so I cheated back, you know what I mean? But hey, I was just like, what goes around comes around. I wasn't the Nora that I am now at that time, so just to let you know. I was a mess, okay? I was totally a mess. And so I didn't take no mess. I was a mess, but that's why I said God has really brought me through a lot. And I thank him for Jesus, because I don't know where I would be had I still been the same type of person that I was before. Mm-hmm. And so, but after I had cheated, he decided to give me a second chance. And so after that, that's when things really started to change. You know, when I noticed how the possession, he would always be, like when I was in school, he would give me a certain code when it's him texting me, well, paging me, right? I was 18, he was 20. So his code was 20.
Okay.
So if I see a number I don't recognize and I see the 20 behind it, I say, oh, I know who that is.
Okay. Yeah, I remember those days.
Yeah, you know. So at first I was thinking, oh, this is cute. He's keeping tabs on me and stuff like. No, that ain't cute. You know. So it got to the point where it just got he just got really, really, really possessive. You know. And so then he would extort money from me. You know, this is his way of saying, okay, I'm giving you a second chance for cheating, but now you got to pay for it in different ways, you know what I mean, to prove my love for him, you know, like I was really sorry, you know. And so that's what he would do. Well, then he ended up moving. He got stationed here in Fort Campbell because he PCS'd, right? And so we did get a blood test and, you know, came back positive that he was the father, you know, and then he finally started to decide to get in his son's life. But then it was like right before he's getting ready to PCS. So then...
okay, so let me ask for the listeners, and I definitely don't know, what is PCS?
Oh, it's a permanent change of station. When you're in the Army, that's when they leave and they go to another duty station.
Okay.
So yeah, so he was getting ready. So he was leaving to go to here, you know, Fort Campbell.
Okay. And
so, but yeah, he had, like I said, he had pulled a gun on me and all that stuff. And so after that, and whatever he said do, I would just do it. You know, he would always try to force sex on me, all kind of stuff, you know, make me do things I didn't want to do. And it was crazy. But I let it happen because I was trying to prove how much I loved him. It really wasn't love, you know, abuse is not love. And a lot of it was mental, you know, it was more mental abuse than anything. You didn't really get too physical.
Right.
But then the situation that happened, trying to fast forward, I ended up leaving, you know, Alaska to go, you know, live with him. And then he wanted custody of our child, you know. And so he tricked me actually into giving him custody because it should have been just a temporary thing. But it ended up being a permanent decision. And so he wanted our son. He didn't need him. He was in the military. He would have had the benefits anyway. You know, so he ended up having custody, and then he one time I was staying with my other sister that lived in Nashville, and he came to pick him up, and well, let me see, so I'm trying to think, well, actually that's not exactly how it happened. So he came here. I've been in Clarksville twice. That's what it was. So I was in Knoxville. Then I left to stay with him in Clarksville. And then the whole situation was, I was staying with his sister. Because after he invited me, you know, to his mom's church. His mom was a pastor, so he's a PK. He's a preacher's kid.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so that was another thing. It was like, you know, I was Muslim, he was Christian, so it was already unequally yoked, and you know, a whole lot of stuff. And so the way I got saved really was at his mom's church, and I was there one time, and they were doing an altar call, you know, and they were like somebody coming up, you know, for salvation, and I was like, okay, it wasn't something that I heard, it was more like something I felt. You know, I felt the Holy Ghost tugging at me, you know. And she knew my situation. So as soon as I went up there, she took that microphone and she put it in my face like, is Jesus your savior? I was like, yes, he is. You know what I mean? It was just like, I didn't know what I was doing, but I did, you know. Okay. And so because I didn't know fully, I kind of got backslid a lot, you know, because you know, you're a Christian and you're new, you're supposed to stay into disciple class and stuff like that to be able to stay rooted and grounded in the word. Well, fast forward, so he wanted to get his son, and then the date, what happened, he was getting ready to go to officer school, and this was October 19th, and so the day before, he called me, said, you want to come and see me or, see your son. I'm going to be gone for 30 days. Right. And so I said, all right. So he came to pick me up. And so then it was the next morning is where everything happened. And my son was crying because I said, he was getting ready to go to church. And I said, I want to go. And he was like, whose church? Mine? No, you can't go to my church. You know how my mom is. She don't want you to, she'll know that you were here last night. You know how she feels about people living with, you're not married and all this other stuff, And so he was like, I could take you to Greyhound and act like you came on Greyhound or something like that, trying to figure out some other stuff. I was like, all right, that's fine. So then I was getting ready to go and get dressed, and I heard a voice to go back in there with your son, because I'm hearing him crying. I'm like, what you doing? What's wrong with him? And he was like, nothing. I said, no, my son shouldn't be crying like this. Why is he crying? Because he was like, oh, he's just upset, because I told him he got to go to church and he wants to stay here with you, And I was just like, oh, okay, well, there's no reason he should be crying the way he's crying. You're abusing my son. He was like, no, I'm not. And I told you about accusing me of abusing him. And he started pointing his finger in my face. Right. I'm like, you violating my space right now. So when he did that, I was like, all right. So I got his finger out of my face, and then I shoved him on the side of his head. So he kind of went down, in a little position. Then he kind of pulled back up and grabbed me under my arms, right, to the point where it was some kind of wrestling move that we were making. And then we slipped on the blanket because I was in my son's room where I slept. And when we were on the blanket, we fell to the floor. And then that's when the damage took place, when he started choking me. And he was I was like, I can't breathe. I told him I can't breathe. He said, why'd you hit me? I'm like, I'm sorry. I hit you, but I can't breathe. And instead of letting up, he did not let up. If anything, he went, and I heard my neck, just crack. And I was just like, did I just come here and die? Because my lights were out. I passed out. I don't know how long I was out, but I was just like, I know I did not just come here and die. And then I was up again. He was moving me, Noor. I was like, I'm still here. I'm looking around like, what just happened?
Oh, wow.
And then, but he was like, what are you talking about? I said, what just happened? And why can't I feel my legs? I couldn't feel my legs. He was like, I don't know. I was like, what'd you do? He was like, I don't know. I'm like, wait a minute, what? And I didn't know what happened. And so I'm sitting here like, okay, well, I think you broke my neck. And he was like, psh, your neck ain't broken. Because if you feel that your neck was broken, you wouldn't be sitting there telling me that your neck is broken. I'm like, okay, yeah, you're right, because I'll be dead. Well, something's wrong. What's wrong with me? He's just in denial. And so then my son, he saw the whole thing, and he was sitting on me, he was 3. He was 3 at this time. And he was sitting, bouncing on me like, mommy. I'm like, no, son, get off. Mommy's not feeling good right now. I couldn't even feel him. I'm looking at him, and I couldn't even feel him on me. So, yeah. And so instead of him doing the ultimate thing, which should have been to call and get some help, he decided he wanted to try to nurse me back to health himself. By going, I said, it was hot. He kept going to get some water, kept getting some ice, trying to rub my neck and all this other stuff, and he was like, well, you think if I could, put you in the bathtub, I'm like, what? Put me in the bathtub? He tried to lift me, and this is dead weight. He can't lift me, and so just a whole lot of wrong stuff that he was doing. And I forgot to tell you, his brother was there too, before we were fighting, and he told him, go ahead to church and just tell mom I'm not gonna make it today. And so he left, and his mom's church is long, so it was all like 3 hours. So I didn't get no help, no medical attention for like 3 hours. And then when his brother got back, he said, we gotta take her to the hospital. Instead of calling an ambulance, where I would have been, in a stretcher with, my neck would have been in a brace or something like that, strapped down to where you're not supposed to move a person. And he was moving me. He kept moving me all type of ways, trying to get me to stand. I'm like, how can I stand? I can't feel my legs. Trying to hold me, tell me to grab around his neck and try to lift me up. He was doing all kind of stuff that just ruined and made things worse,
Mm-hmm.
And then he just started talking, and he said he was sorry, he repented and cried and prayed and everything. Talking about, I don't want to go to jail. Jail is like hell and all this other stuff. And we just talking, and he was thinking that I was faking it because I was like, well, trying to get him to marry me and all this stuff. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna fake anything like this, But when he got there, his brother, they were trying to take me to the car. Mind you, this is upstairs. So he had one side of me and his brother had the other side of me. So going down these stairs, my neck was like a bobblehead, just bobble, because there was no stability. Yeah, no stability on my neck whatsoever. So he ended up, taking me to the hospital and told me to tell them I was playing with the baby and I slipped on some water and I fell down the steps. That's what happened. Of course, I went along with it. But the doctors, they could tell by the way my neck was fractured, that was not from no fall. Yeah. So I ended up having neck surgery on the 21st of October. And they gave me a halo. One of those halos that was the big old, metal in your forehead and the bars and all on your chest.
Oh, yes.
You with that, you're totally stiff. And I had to wear mine for 6 weeks. With that already in itself was a miracle, because most people have to wear that for like 12 weeks. I only had to wear for 6. But I could only see people if they were looking right in front of me. And so they said, no, this was not from a fall. So what really happened, and I had to go ahead and tell the truth of what really happened.
Right.
And so what I didn't know was that while I was in the hospital, my son was in the lobby with my sisters and them, because after they found out, everybody ended up, like when I got out of surgery night, all my brothers and sisters were here. My dad was there too. Both of my dads were there. My mom was there. I was like, how'd my mom get here from Alaska? Well, I found out his mom called my mom. And so she ended up flying there. And so they were all there. They came from Detroit, all 4 of them drove. And at the time, my grandma was alive. She was there too. So my whole family was pretty much waiting for me. Well, while I was in surgery, they were in the lobby. And I found out that his mom went cuckoo crazy and tried to take him, like, Hassan, come here. And, he saw my sister and he ran to her. And she started freaking out. They're trying to take my grandson. And like, no, this is my nephew. Your son hurt my sister, because they were wondering, like, what's going on and everything. And they're like, oh, well, y'all got more problems. Well, whose child is it? And they were going to get, they gave him back to my sister, when he saw when he saw his auntie. But I'm sitting, he said, oh, my daddy's in trouble. They were like, what you mean? And he told them what happened, because remember, he saw it.
Right.
So he did the whole, reenactment of what he saw his dad do to his mother. He said, yeah, she was like that, and he did that, and he did the whole reenactment. They're like, what? Oh my gosh, And so they were like, oh, we need to call the police. They brought the police there that was in the lobby, but then they didn't believe them. They kind of think that they coerced him to say that. If they would have been there when he did it, like right there, just on the spot, that would have been different. But it's because, oh no, y'all taught him how to say that or something. It's just so much going on and everything. But it was a miracle that I was able to wear it for 6 weeks. And my mom, she was always there. She stayed with me in the room. And then when it was time for me to get my halo off, she said, don't expect to get your halo off today. I said, what do you mean? Because, they usually wear them for 12 weeks. I said, well, they told me 6 weeks. I'm going with 6 weeks. I know the God that I serve, this halo is coming off today. And she was surprised when the doctor came in there and said, oh yeah, we can get your halo off today. I was like, I told you, I was like, don't doubt my God, And so that was a miracle, that I was only able to wear it for 6 weeks. And then another thing when I first got there, I was like a vegetable. Like I couldn't move, and they had to weigh me like vegetables, you know, and the full body weight type to weigh me. But my pain was so unbearable. I said, Mom, why didn't he just kill me? I can't take this. She, you know, and she didn't really have an answer for me, you know, but it was that bad. But when I saw my son sitting there, I saw his face, and I said I had to do this for him. You know. Yeah. And so I said, and then when they said, as far as me walking again, if I walk again, they said it'll be a year to a year and a half. So a year to 18 months. Okay. So you say if. All right then. So I took that if and I ran with it. And I made sure, you know, while I was in rehab, I had to learn everything all over again because I was right-handed, but I had to learn everything all over again with my left hand. Because when they did the surgery, they went into the left side of my body, so it affected my right. So I'm kind of like a stroke patient because they say normal when a person has a spinal cord injury, both sides, you know, are damaged. But it was just one side of mine that was damaged. And so I was fortunate to get a lot of return because I was incomplete. Now, if it had been a complete fracture to the vertebrae, you know, I would have been permanently paralyzed. But I was paralyzed from the chest down. But I had to learn everything all over again. I had to learn how to push myself in a wheelchair, pick up stuff, and, you know, but I did it, you know. And so what else I forgot to mention that, you know, once I finally had gotten saved, I found a church that I was going to in Nashville, and I was in discipleship class. And I know while I was working, I would always go there after work. And so one time I didn't make it to class, you know, and a couple that was there, Sister D, and I forgot her husband's name, they know Noor don't never miss class. So they was wondering where I was at. So when they found out, you know, where I was, they came to the hospital, you know, to see me. Well, they ended up bringing the Bible study to my hospital room.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Well, actually, it wasn't in my room. It was like in the lobby area, but they brought it to, so I can continue still doing that. So that was good. Yeah. 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 So one day I surprised everybody because when they said that it'll be a year and a half to 18 months. Well, remember this was October 1997 and my birthday was August 9th. And so when I go to rehab, I was always, I rehabilitated myself, and then I started using those parallel bars, and my son would come with me because we have visitation rights and everything. We got that established for me to see him. And he would come to therapy with me sometimes, and he would say, "You're doing a good job. Good girl, mommy."
Oh,
you know, and hearing stuff like that, you know, that made me want to just keep going. You know,
your inspiration. That's
he was my inspiration, exactly. And so one time, I wanted to go to church again. I was in my wheelchair, but I had my walker, and they were like, you know, anybody want to come up, you know, to the altar? And I just started walking up to the altar. Nobody even knew I was there, you know, and they just all started shouting and crying like, "Oh my gosh, she's walking," you know, because they hadn't seen me in a while. But just to know that I was there, they knew what happened, but they hadn't seen me, you know. And I just went in there. I didn't say, "Hey, I'm about to show y'all something." I just walked up there, and they were just like crying, happy tears and hallelujah. And it was just awesome because it was before they told me. They told me a year and a half to 18 months. Well, it wasn't even a year. Wow. And I was already, you know, walking. So even though I had to use a walker, I was still walking. You know?
Strong.
yeah, I know.
Yes. And how old were you? How old were you when that happened?
I was 22.
Dang.
Yeah, I was 22. Yep, just in my prime.
Wow.
Yeah, just in my prime. So, yeah.
What a story.
Yes, ma'am.
So you were in the hospital for 6 weeks. Were you in the hospital for the 6 weeks the whole time, or? Were you in the hospital?
Yeah, because I was in I got discharged in December, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So I was at Vanderbilt Stalwart, the rehabilitation center. That's where I learned all the physical therapy and all that stuff to learn how to walk again.
Okay.
Well, not to walk again, but to learn just the basic stuff with the pushing myself in a wheelchair and picking up stuff. Those Scrabble pieces. You know how those are so little and light?
Yes.
Those things were so heavy for me. Like it felt so heavy for me to just pick up that little piece of Scrabble piece, because they were working with me with my hands and stuff to see what I can move and what I couldn't move. And they was like, okay, push this and then try to pick it up. I couldn't even pick up a Scrabble piece. And I think about that whenever if I try to play Scrabble, and I remember when I couldn't even lift this thing.
Right.
So
amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing how much your spinal cord is attached to certain things, because the spinal cord has a lot of functions for your body.
Mm-hmm.
Even with your lower extremity, because when you have a spinal injury, your lower extremities don't work properly, with your bowels and your bladder. So
wow,
that's another thing, with my bowels, I'm not able to have a regular bowel movement. So when I was in the hospital, they had to put me on a schedule. They were, okay, it's time for the bowel routine, which means that somebody had to actually literally grab my bowels from my behind and take them out.
Wow. Good night.
Yeah. And then as far as being able to use the bathroom, bladder wise, I wasn't able to go on my own, so they would have to use a catheter to make me urinate. But the thing is, I was always able to, and still to this day, I can always feel when I had to go. I just couldn't go.
Okay.
My muscles didn't work enough for me to just press it out, for me to urinate. So I would always, have to get cath. Well, because of my hand, when I did learn how to use my left hand, my right hand, it has some atrophy, and so I'm not able to grip with it. But one day I was able to go, and I said, "Ma, I feel like I can pee." So really? So I went on the toilet, and I just kind of thought in my mind, let me let this come out. And it started trickling. I said, oh my gosh, I peed.
Wow. And these are like the little things that we take for granted. Just use
so much. Yeah, that's why I was thinking about that, so I was able to actually still go, but it was more like overactive. So every time I went over a pothole or something, and it's like, oh, triggered my bladder, now I gotta go. So I used to have to wear them Depends, adult diapers. Yes. I used to have to wear them, because it would just, any little thing would trigger my bladder that I would have to go. But it was okay, because I didn't get to be able to pee before, but it was a disruptor though.
Yes.
I always pee like that. I'm 20 something years old, and
right.
Wearing big diapers, and it was, it was annoying. But now, I did go back to work back in 2000, and I was working at a call center. And so at that place, we had to stay on the phone until our issue was resolved. And so I would hold my bladder sometimes, even on the call, even though I had those adult diapers on. I don't know why I didn't just pee, but it messed up my bladder. And so now it's not more of an overactive bladder, but it's more retention. So with retention, it's holding your bladder like a balloon that just won't inflate or deflate. So because I'm not able to catheterize myself, I end up using a Foley. It's a Foley catheter, so that I use that now. And with the leg bag, and but that's constant UTIs that I get.
All of that, oh my gosh. All of that, this happened years ago, and you're still dealing with complications from a man who apparently was very insecure. Just very, very low self-esteem. Manipulative. I mean, he had mental issues. Did his mom? Now you said she was a pastor of a church. Did his mom know that he was abusive, or was his father abusive? Do you know, like, where this behavior came from?
It was more for, I believe, because he was military, so he brought his work home sometimes, but they're trained to kill, when they're in the military. He knew what he was doing, but also, speaking of his mom, she's the one who actually met me at the hospital when I came, because I had to get, because when we were at the hospital here in Clarksville, and what I needed, the type of not surgery, but the kind of attention I needed, they couldn't do it at this hospital here. So they had to actually take me to Nashville and in an ambulance. So I guess he must have called her and told her, Mama, I slipped, Mama. It was an accident and all this stuff, right? So when I got there, she was waiting for me in the parking lot when I got out of that ambulance. And she knew, she could tell, that, did he do this to you? I said, yes, ma'am. I couldn't lie to her.
No more lying. It's over. It's like there was no more lying after that incident.
It wasn't. So, because it's just like, it was too much of damage to know that it was not just from falling down the steps.
Right. And so the past experiences with him pulling a gun and all that, and I do, you were younger, so when you were younger, your mind, you're not even thinking right.
Mm-hmm.
Did you keep that to yourself? Were you like suffering in silence back then? Did anybody else know that any of this was going on?
To a certain extent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I said a lot of stuff I kept to myself, and I didn't really say anything. I would, like when we fought, and I had told my dad one time we were fighting, and he was like, "What y'all were trying to kill each other?" He said, "A bottle, a hanger, a pillow," And I said, "Yeah, I hit him with a bottle in his head, and then I said, gun." He pulled a gun on me twice, and he was like, "What?" So he was surprised too that we were fighting like that.
Right.
But like I said, some of the times that we were fighting, it wasn't really like that serious. So this last time was like, he really totally betrayed me.
That's how you felt.
Yeah. And we weren't even together. That's the thing. Like, we weren't even together anymore. And so I know most people, they say, well, at least you got out. I was already out. We weren't even together. And really, when he left, he got stationed here to Fort Campbell. I could have stayed my butt in Alaska. I would have been fine, but I followed him.
Right.
I would have been good. But yeah, I followed him here. So that's how I ended up here in Fort Campbell. And then my mom and them, they ended up moving here. So my mom and their stepdad, they drove all the way from Alaska to Clarksville. It was a week. It took them a week to get here.
I bet it did. My. So what happened to him? Did he wind up going to jail? Was there any ramifications for his actions?
Nothing happened to him. He was a good soldier. They found him not guilty.
Because he was a good soldier.
Yep. Because at first it was attempted murder. They kept changing his charges. The more it took longer for us to get a court date. And so by the time we had court, I was already pretty much like, I could walk again, even though I was using my walker, I was walking. I was still using my wheelchair and everything like that. But my injury wasn't as severe as it was when they initially, had the charges. So then it was aggravated assault. So that's what they brought him up as, aggravated assault instead of attempted murder. But then he got off on self-defense because I hit him first.
Really?
Yep. And on top of that, he ended up getting promoted right afterwards because, like I said, he was a good soldier. He was getting ready to go to officer school, so he was a specialist P. Next thing you know, he's a sergeant. So they said he was a good soldier, so he got promoted. Nothing happened to him, but everything still left for me to live my life all disrupted and just have a new life of a new way of doing things.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. So I guess you have to be that voice for a lot of young ladies who are going through this. You had to go through that, I guess, so that you could talk to women and be relatable, to an experience like that. You had to change the world.
I did. And see, and the reason I know that this was God is because when I decided to go back to school, actually I was in school for art, but then, after I lost the ability to use my hand, I couldn't do my art anymore. So when I decided to go back to school, I went to school for psychology. But I've always liked to help people. So that was my reason of going for psychology, and I like to get in people's head. It took me 7 years, to get my degree, but I wanted to be a counselor. So once I graduated, I had a friend who, she had a show, Skeeter Davis, and she had a radio show. And so I was on her show. And when I, gave my testimony, it got so many reviews, we had to have a part 2. People wanted to hear more. Wow. And then the second show, we had over 5,000 listeners.
Wow.
So she was like, okay, it's time to go on TV now.
Right.
So we ended up doing a show in Nashville on TV, and they did like a kind of reenactment of what happened. And that went viral, and so after that, people were like, please don't stop sharing your story. It's going to help others, And I was like, okay, I won't, but then as far as me wanting to counsel people, well, God took me a whole different direction. And then I ended up being an inspirational speaker. And so, but then I also became an advocate, towards domestic violence. So I said, well, I can still counsel people that way. It may not be in an actual, office with a couch or something like that.
Right.
You don't have to counsel somebody in a couch, as long, because I have the experience, and when I'm sharing my story, I'm not just talking about it. I lived it,
Right.
So that makes a big difference than me just trying to counsel somebody about, oh, well, you should do this or you should do that. No, I can tell you exactly why you shouldn't do this or what you should do, to get to safety and all the resources that are out there and the signs to look for, because I didn't know the signs. Like I said, I didn't know that I was actually in a domestic violence situation. When he was, having me send, make those text messages to be, not text message, we didn't have text yet, pager, like to know that was him, with the code and everything like that. And one time I was in school and he knew where I worked. Well, I was in a 3-hour class one time, and I was like, he's blowing my phone up. I told my best friend, he's blowing up my pager. And I recognized the number. I was working at McDonald's at that time, but it was a McDonald's payphone. I was like, what is he doing at work? I don't work today. So I said, all right, we got to go over there. So we ran over there as soon as I got out of class. And I'm like, what are you doing? He's sitting there yelling at my boss. Where's she at? I'm like, I don't work today. What are you doing here?
Oh, wow.
Because I wouldn't call him back. I'm like, I'm in class. Don't he know my schedule? It was crazy. That's why I was just like, he got so possessive, wanted to know where I was, every move I was making. And, got to the point where my friends and stuff, I said, well, I said, he took my pager from me. So I told him, I said, y'all, blow it up. So he could say, give him, here, you can have this pager back. It goes off too much. That backfired on me.
Uh-oh.
I'm sitting here thinking, like, I want him to get tired of my pager going off. You got too many people paging you and all this other stuff. But nah, what he did, he made it seem like I was the bad guy and he was the good guy. He tried to turn my friends against me and make him look like he was so good.
Manipulation.
Yeah, total manipulation. Yeah. And like I said, I was young, I was 19, still a teenager. I really wasn't ready for nothing serious, which I had already told him that from the get-go, and he was a player. So we weren't really, trying to be nothing serious, but I guess he was more serious than I thought he was, or he played like he was. I don't know. But I never dealt with anything like that with any of my other prior relationships.
Wow, what a story. Oh my. Whew. I'm like speechless. I really am, like,
yeah.
Wow. You call it a survivor. I call it a conqueror, because
Yeah.
yeah, definitely, because you conquered a lot with that situation and still conquering today.
And still conquering it. Yeah. Still
Mm-hmm.
going through it because, I still use my wheelchair when I need to because when places is too much for me to walk, and I'm actually back on my walker because I have been falling lately. I was using my quad cane. I graduated from the walker to the cane, but then I had been falling. I don't know why. So I just said I don't want to fall no more. So I said let me get my walker back out, to keep my balance and stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, when I look at it, like I said, this had to happen because in order for me to find out who I really was in Christ, this had to happen because, when I share my story, I may be sharing it for domestic violence, but I'm sharing it more because my ultimate goal is to win those to Christ who don't know him. Because it was God that helped me through it. If I didn't know God, if I would have still been like I was before I got saved, I was a mess. I wouldn't have been able to go through it like that, still being that person. That's why when people get saved, it really is a miracle because you really do change. And he had to change me in order to go through this because I wouldn't have been able to do it on my own without him. Yes. And so it shows how much he loved me because he won't put more on us than we can bear. And he knew I was a strong person when I was in the world. Now I'm just even more stronger, in him. So I had to go through it in order to get others to understand that when we go through stuff, it's not for us, it's for other people.
I agree with that 100%. I agree with that 100% for our children and our children's children. I mean,
yeah.
Because I know I shared in my last podcast how I was one of those people that was very judgmental initially, when it came to women and dealing with domestic violence situations. I say, I'd be like, oh, if that was me, I would leave. If that was me, I wouldn't deal with that crap. If that was me, I ain't going through that. I ain't gonna never go through that. And then when I finally experienced, what that was like,
your words,
I learned then that, don't ever say what you won't do.
Right.
You've been through it. You can't, if you have not been that person's shoes, just be quiet, because you don't know what you're talking about.
And then too, when people say, well, why didn't you just leave? They don't understand the reason. It's not, you can't just leave. It's not so much, why don't you just leave? But it's why do you stay? And there's reasons why you stay.
Yes.
Because especially when kids are involved.
Yes.
Because they can threaten your kids, or they can threaten you that they're going to do something to your child, or they'll threaten you to do something to your parents or your family. They know where you live. They know where you work. I mean, it's not just you anymore that is involved with this person. They get your whole family involved. They get your friends involved. Like I said, he was yelling at my doggone boss, like, where's she at? I wasn't even working that day.
Right.
But everybody is affected when a person's in a domestic violence situation because they want you to be there for them and they change you to who they want you to be. That's why you lose yourself. That's why they say you lose your identity because you're no longer you. You want to be what they want you to be. And you don't know who you are anymore until you find that true love for God. When you realize that God is love and sex ain't love. Sex is lust. But most of the time, there's that honeymoon phase. Sometimes we pick a fight just so we can make up. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, come on. We would do that. Just make up, okay. But that ain't cool.
Right.
But that's why a lot of people end up staying in relationships like that because the honeymoon phase, okay, I'm sorry. They get remorseful. They say they're not going to do it again. But it might be years before they do it again. It just depends on how long you're in that situation with that person.
Right. So
sometimes they might change. You hope that they'll change. You want them to change, but they may not. you may not ever see them change. It might be the point where you finally get out, and then all of a sudden they get in a new relationship and they don't do that to that new person. Oh, they finally decided to not be domestic or not to be an abuser. Well, once an abuser, always an abuser. Pretty much.
Wow. Whew. Well, man, your story is amazing. I'm thankful to have you on my podcast. Really, know, you're very, very transparent, very open, and you share so much. And like you said, and this goes from young to the old. I say that domestic violence, there's no age discrimination when it comes to that. You know what I mean? It happens to young women. It happens to older women, or it's a continuous cycle, where it just keeps going. And like you said, we don't know the situation. We don't know what the person is dealing with, what they're going through. So I want to say that you're a powerful woman. You really are. And for you to finally decide enough was enough. I know that was a life changer. To finally get there. And like you said, it takes time to get there. It takes time. So whew. I am blown away. I really am. So yeah, this could go on for another 2 hours.
I know. That's why I was like, you said 30 minutes. I'm looking at the time. It's been an hour and 2 minutes. I'm like, wow, yes. Oops.
That's okay, because I do leave some time, after that.
Oh,
especially for these kind of conversations, because I know it's going to go for a while, and I'm not in any rush, because you may say something that could save somebody's life right now, or just one thing that you say could make somebody just totally, do a 180. So appreciate that. So okay, so what advice would you give someone, or what would be something that you would like to share with the listeners, as far as just maybe some advice or an encouraging word? Or
so what I would say is, just know your worth. KYW. That's the acronym for know your worth, because God wants the best for his people. And you don't have to settle for anything less than what he has for you. And when you realize that, you're going to want only what God has for you. And know that life is precious, and we never know what is going to come our way. So when you put your full trust in God, just know he has your back. He's not going to leave you. He's not going to forsake you. And just trust him that anything that you do for Christ will last. Man, they want it their way, but it's all about doing it God's way. And that's the advice I can leave.
That's beautiful. Beautiful. All right. So now just give us a run through how we can, all your social media handles. Do you have any upcoming events? You say you're a co-author and a poet. You have any books coming out? Anything, any book you want to put out there for people to buy? Just, give us all that.
Yeah, so I'm a co-author of a book called Wounded Women Warriors, Surviving the Storms of Life. It's a collaboration of 20 survivors by Cassandra Bryant Johnson. She's the publisher of Kingdom Publishing. And it's 20 of us women that we share our story in that book. They're not all domestic violence survivors. We got some that were survived from drugs, some from sexuality, homosexuality, some who lost their kids, some lost their mom, crack. A lot of different stories in that one book. And my chapter is From Pain to Purpose. And I'm also working on my own book right now. That's just kind of like an excerpt, kind of like just the story of, it's a 7-page, kind of just only that part of the story is in that book of what happened, but as far as like a full story, that's the one I'm working on now. And that one will be called Broken Vessel. And so, when that one comes out, I'll let everybody know. But I did have a lot on my social media for my Facebook, but like I was telling you earlier, my Facebook had got hacked. Yeah. And so I have to kind of like start all over with some of my groups. But I have a page called Scars to Diamonds. And this is for any type of abuse. So if anybody has been abused, whether it's physical, mental, sexual, financial, any type of abuse. And I was doing it only for women, but I'm expanding my ministry to men as well. And so that is a private group, but it's Scars with a Z and the number 2, and then Diamonds with a Z. So, if you want to be able to be a part of that group. And then I also have another page called Break the Silence 2, Stop the Violence. The number 2, we're using 2 because we're doing 2 things. We're breaking the silence first, and then we're stopping the violence. So that's another one of my Facebook pages. Then I am a poet, and I'm also a model. You can find me on LinkedIn. Noor Jihan Al-Haq on LinkedIn. I'm on Twitter, but I don't use it that much. I'm on Instagram. I am the Light 7. That's my handle for Instagram. And then my Facebook is Noor Jihan A Al-Haq, because my other one is just Noor Jihan Al-Haq, but the new one, the one I'm currently trying to rebuild, is with the A for the initial. So that's how you can find me as well. Like I said, I had a lot of different groups on my other profile, but I just got to kind of rebuild my life back from this hack and this scammer. But I know that sometimes we go through a weeding process and purging. Mm-hmm. And so some of these things that happen, they happen for a reason. So that's the way I'm looking at it. Because I had almost 5,000 friends on that page. Mm-hmm. I ain't know half of them. I was going to be deleting some people anyway. Right. Right. Put it down to maybe 2,500, But so now I'm just trying to rebuild this one with the right type of people. And, when I say I'm a multiple streams, I do health and wellness. I do debt relief agent. I'm also an agent for legal aid. So I'm also into crypto, Forex. There's a lot of stuff going on. But my main thing is being a kingdompreneur, because, like I said, my goal is to reach out to those who are lost and they don't know Christ. And I do have an event coming up on the 19th, which is my anniversary date. I am also, like I said, I'm the CEO of the Kingdom Warriors Network. This is a group that we wanted to empower, encourage, and inspire others to advance the kingdom of God. And we stand on the principles in Matthew 6:33. So this is for people who are business owners and spiritually minded. And we just network with each other. So we have different companies in our organization that everybody is a part of, and we share each other's business. Okay. As far as what we do and the products and stuff like that. And so I'm also the host of our Kingdom Minded Empowerment calls, and we have those on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays, usually at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, 10 o'clock Central. But then Tuesday nights, we have our Testimony Tuesday at 6 o'clock. And this is on a conference line. Well, I'm dedicating it to domestic violence this month. So all the people that have been our guests for Testimony Tuesday have been domestic violence survivors. And so I will be my own guest coming up on this Tuesday.
Oh, awesome. Wow.
Yeah. So if you want that number, I can go ahead and give it to the listeners. It's 351-888-6137. There's no access code needed.
Okay.
And then I'm also going to be on a radio show with Shanique Cicero on Sunday the 24th. And that will be at 11 a.m. Central, 12 Eastern. No, I'm sorry, 12 Central, 1 o'clock Eastern. I don't know the name of the radio show at the moment, but you know her, right? I think we're in the same group.
I'll have to look in the group and see.
Okay.
Yes, I'm really just getting to know faces and everything. So, yeah. Okay. Well, she's doing a lot of things. You're doing a lot, and I'm not surprised. You're busy.
Yeah. Well, I try not to be busy because, see, I'm also an acronym woman. They call me the acronym woman, and busy is being under Satan's yoke. So I'm not busy. I'm
I love that. Being under Satan's yoke, busy. Okay, I love it. So what would you use instead?
Productive.
Okay, there it is. Productive. Yep. I love
it. When you're productive, you're producing fruit, so that you can get a harvest.
Yes.
Yep.
All right. So we're being productive, ladies and gentlemen.
That's right. No more busy.
No more busy. Wow. Well, thank you again so much, Norjihan, for coming on my podcast. I appreciate you. I know you'll be back because you got so much going on.
Yeah, sure.
Have to, talk about some more things. And I am honored to have you on my podcast. Thank you so much. I appreciate you, and I'm full of gratitude.
And thank you for having me. And I know we took longer than we should have, but it was all for a reason, that we went a little longer, an extensive time.
Oh yeah, purpose. When there's purpose, it is what it is.
Yeah. I'm supposed to be on another Zoom right now, but they'll be all right.
Yeah.
People, they have the link. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
They already knew I was going to be getting on a podcast, so I went ahead and I sent them the link earlier for them to get on that. Hopefully they don't see me and they jump off because they don't see me on there. You know how some people are.
Yeah.
She invited me and she ain't even here herself.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay, well, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to say thank you for tuning in, listening to my podcast. We greatly appreciate you. And what I would like to leave with all of you is the following quote. Remember, just like the sun, you are necessary. All right. See you guys later. Love y'all.
All right. Thank you.